Welcome to Advocate Today. I'm Aaron Dean. Delaware State Senator Sarah McBride is running for Congress and could become the first openly transgender House member. She is the highest ranking trans elected official in America, but Sarah isn't running just to make history. She hopes to represent all of the people of the state of Delaware in the House of Representatives. Sarah says her mission is to advocate for all. What has motivated you to enter the world of not just activism, but politics? And how did that shape your decision to run for Congress?
Sure. Well, I decided to run for office several years ago when I ran for the state Senate and now serving in the state Senate for the community that I was born and raised in, because I saw that politics is the place where every avenue of society converges and you can make the most amount of change for the most number of people in the most number of ways possible. And I think for me, in many ways, my journey to doing that, to running for office, both then and now, is linked to my own journey to coming out. Because as a young person struggling with who I am and how I fit into this world, I was searching for sources of hope. And I found hope in the fact that the story of our nation's politics is the story of advocates, activists, and a handful of courageous elected officials righting wrongs, addressing injustice, and expanding our circle of opportunity and community to more and more people who for too long had been cast into the shadows and the margins of society. So I decided to run for office in 2020, and now I'm running for the US Congress in 2024 because I believe that government has to work better for people. It has to work better for workers, for families, especially when hard times hit. Whether that's the challenging joys of welcoming a child into your family, the abject terror of a serious illness, whether that's facing prejudice and stigma in our society, whether that's unemployment, no matter what we're talking about, government can do more to support people through those inevitable challenges in life. And in the state Senate, I fought for policies that do just that. I helped pass paid family and medical leave here in Delaware in just my first term. I've been fighting for early childhood education, for expanded access to healthcare, for gun safety and reproductive rights and LGBTQ equality. And I'll continue to fight for those things and, more importantly, deliver on those issues in Congress.
And, when it came to your campaign announcement, you mentioned several key issues, criminal justice reform, like you said, abortion rights, gun violence. What would you say will be your approach to these issues? And, when it comes to making a difference for all people?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I am really passionate about a whole host of issues that I hear time and time again are impacting Delawareans on a day-to-day basis, issues that are keeping them up at night. That includes the rising cost of childcare, which is breaking the bank for far too many families and resulting in a lot of people having to leave the workforce entirely because it makes more financial sense for a parent to stay home with their child than to stay and work and pay for childcare. That shouldn't be the case. People should be able to raise a family and pursue their dreams and passions all at the same time. And so I'm fighting for affordable early childhood education, including universal pre-K for every Delawarean. I'll be prioritizing that in Congress. I passed paid family and medical leave here in Delaware, but we can do more to expand that benefit, to make it as robust as possible with federal investment. I'll be fighting for that. I'll be fighting to codify Roe and protect abortion rights at the federal level. I'll be fighting for gun safety, like the assault weapons ban we were able to pass here in Delaware at the federal level. I also think that recognizing that there is an important message that can be sent by having a member of Congress who happens to be trans working on and making progress on all of the issues that matter. I think that helps to reinforce that trans people are part of the rich diversity of our society and that we not only deserve a seat at the table, but when we're there, we have something to offer.
And, when we look at these ongoing attacks on LGBTQ rights and liberties, there have been many concerns that people have when it comes to their safety and just, like you said, just their rights overall. And, these number of bills continue to go up. It just seems like all the time. How will you work to address, these things for the queer community on the national level?
So one, obviously, we have to continue to diversify the public's understanding of who LGBTQ people are, including who trans people are. And having an out transgender member of Congress who's working on all of the issues that matter will help to further reinforce the humanity of trans people, the reality of trans people, the full diversity of who transgender people are. It'll help to fill that knowledge gap, because in the absence of that knowledge, in the absence of that understanding, the fear mongering that the right wing is doing with trans people becomes much more politically potent. Once you have a clear image of who trans people are, once you have an image of the full range of the diversity of our community, it becomes much more difficult for the right-wing attacks to land in any kind of way. But beyond that, the federal government has a role to play, as it has throughout history, in protecting the basic rights of marginalized Americans. And that's why the US Congress has to pass the Equality Act to make it explicitly clear that our nation's civil rights laws protect LGBTQ people, and to have a very explicit and permanent bulwark against these anti-LGBTQ attacks at the state level. And so I will sign on as a co-sponsor to the Equality Act from an early a date as possible in the U.S. House.
Do you feel that Congress is currently successful at advocacy and policymaking in the things that they're doing?
No. I don't think the Republican-controlled House is effective in meeting the needs of people. I think we have seen time and time again the majority in the U.S. House of Representatives scapegoat and fearmonger around issues that they are utilizing to distract from the fact that they have absolutely no policy agenda for workers and families in our country. They are seeking to distract from their policy failures over the last 3 decades, and they're seeking to do what they've done throughout modern American politics, which is to try to divide and conquer. But I believe that these attacks, whether we're talking about the attacks on reproductive rights, which are not popular with the public, whether we're talking about the attacks on the trans community, which ring hollow for members of the public, these are political sideshows that the Republicans are seeking to employ to whip up their base. But they're unpopular with the American public. They don't resonate with the American public. And I believe that in 2024, voters across this country are going to respond to that empty policy agenda, to the cruelty of their limited policies that they're pursuing that have dangerous consequences for women and LGBTQ people of color here in the United States. And they're going to elect a Democratic majority in the House. They're going to retain the Democratic majority in the Senate. They'll reelect Joe Biden to the presidency. And in all of that, they'll make sure that a critical voice that's not present at the table is finally there by electing in Delaware the first openly transgender member of Congress.
And to really wrap it all up with that last point you made, if elected, you will be the first trans member of Congress. On a personal level, for you, what does that mean to be able to make this kind of history, especially given the long battle for queer rights?
Well, I'm not just running to make history. I'm running to make a difference. But I do know just how much this would have meant to me as a kid, seeing it in the news. And I think at this moment, where so many LGBTQ people, particularly trans kids, are feeling alone and scared and fearful that the heart of this country isn't big enough to love them too. I think that in 2024, we can send a long overdue and potentially life-saving message to those young people that our democracy is big enough for all of us, and that you can live your truth and dream big dreams all at the same time. I know how much that would have meant to me as a kid, and I believe it'll mean a lot to a lot of young people across the country.
Sarah McBride, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching Advocate Today. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to stream us live, and you can even subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate channel, I'm Aaron Dean.